A winning gamble for Greece's prime minister. Athenians celebrating well into the night after a resounding no in a referendum on accepting the bailout terms of creditors. They insist it is a vote against austerity, 61% of them voting no. But for Europe, they say it was a vote for Europe and the euro. But when the Greek capital awoke on Monday, banks still closed. They'll remain so until at least Thursday. Debts still unpaid. And now a new deadline from creditors looms. Heads after a day that saw markets fall. The German chancellor pulling up at the Élysée Palace here in Paris. Angela Merkel may insist that Greece's far-left prime minister is still her friend. Leaders in her coalition government have expressed disappointment and even dismay. And if Germany toes a hard line, can the French president find a consensus with southern Europeans much more lenient towards Greece and its debt burden? Moreover, it's clear that this latest seminal moment for Europe is far from over. From the far left to the far right, there are those across the continent who've hailed the vote as a victory for democracy against the so-called Eurocrats. Alexis Tsipras's gamble not only forcing a rethink of how to reform the EU's finances, but how to restore Europe's political street cred. Today in the France 24 debate, what next for Greece and for Europe? And with us to talk about it, French Socialist Member of Parliament Arnaud Leroy. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Thanks.
Welcome back. Welcome from Athens to Karina Vassilopoulos. She is a member of Syriza and a member of the Attica Regional Council. Thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
Also in the Greek capital,
Nice to meet you.
economist Yanis Koutsimidis, and from Geneva, we're in the company of Harold Howe, who teaches at the Geneva School of Economics and Management. Welcome back to the show, sir. And Bruno Bernard of the opposition Les Républicains party. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, our hashtag F24debate. It certainly was a Sunday night to remember in Athens.
We proved that even under the most difficult circumstances, democracy cannot be blackmailed. However, I am fully aware that the mandate here is not a mandate to break with Europe, but a mandate to strengthen our negotiation position to seek a viable solution.
All right, that was the mood out of a victorious prime minister after that referendum. This Monday, we've seen reactions, though, out of Germany. Both the conservative finance minister and the deputy prime minister, who's head of the Social Democrats, quick to rebut. Sigmar Gabriel saying if Greece wants to stay in the euro, the government must quickly make a substantive offer that goes beyond its willingness thus far.
The result of the referendum is a rejection of the economic and monetary union, and we cannot pretend that nothing has happened. After the referendum, Greece is a politically divided country. 6 years of recession and grueling disputes have left deep scars.
Before I go to Athens, Arnaud Leroy, I got to turn to you first on this because Sigmar Gabriel is from the SPD. That's your political family as a socialist. And here he's towing an even harder line than the conservatives in Germany. Do you agree with him that it's a rejection of an economic and monetary union, this no vote?
No, not at all. I think the rejection is about facts. I mean, the way the Greek crisis has been handled for years and years, that's what people are fed up with. And when you look at the figures, the facts, not only indicators from the economic situation, you understand the no vote yesterday in Greece. I don't really understand the position of Sigmar Gabriel, being as well a social democrat. Honestly, if you go to Greece, you see the situation, you understand. You understand why people decided to vote no, and you understand why as well Papandreou in 2011 proposed as well a referendum. So this is something that I don't really understand.
Harold Howe, as the German in this conversation, maybe you can shed some light on this.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, I think if this new Greek government had as an objective to promote Brexit as fast as possible. It couldn't possibly have done better in the last 3 months. I think the public relation impact in Germany and many other countries of this new government was really disastrous. And if you negotiate with creditors, what you have to have in mind is not only the impact of your public relation and your communication on your own population, but also on that of the creditor countries. And I think in this sense, this new government couldn't possibly have done a worse service to Greece.
Karina Vassilopoulou, the Syriza party insisting that voting no did not mean voting for a Grexit, quite the contrary. Yet you just heard Harold Howe, you just heard what the Social Democrats are saying in Germany. They too have their public opinion behind them.
Yes, they have a public opinion that is misled, because German people, German taxpayers, throw their money for nothing. They saved banks, not people. And they pay for a program that has failed, and that's obvious. The French member of the Socialist Party talked very well about that. This program is a disaster, and the yesterday no, was a rejection of this program, of this austerity policy. It was not a rejection to euro, and of course not to the European Union. We should not forget that Syriza is a pro-European party.
Yeah, let me turn to Yanis Koutsoumidis on this. Again, the signs out of Athens, how do you think they're being interpreted on the rest of the continent?
Well, it was mainly interpreted as a vote against Europe. But I think Greece has not voted against Europe yesterday. It has voted against the austerity program. What I believe is that there had to be a new start in negotiations, regardless of a yes or a no. The no vote just makes negotiations a bit more complicated, because it sends a wrong message to many European population and governments. And but I think Prime Minister Mr. Tsipras has a mandate today from the rest of the political spectrum, the democratic political spectrum, to go tomorrow to the Euro summit and present a new proposal that would be acceptable to the rest of the Eurozone and keep Greece in Euro. The Greek President, Mr. Pavlopoulos, and the rest of the political leaders have maintained in the joint statement that the outcome must be Greece to remain in the core of the Euro.
Yanis, we heard the likes of the UK Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne, say if there is no significant breakthrough at that Tuesday summit, then we can expect the worst. Will there be one?
Well, there are severe problems with liquidity. The bank holiday will be at least for another 2 or 3 days. And the ECB, my expectation is that it will wait until Wednesday to wait for the outcome of the Euro summit in order to assess its position regarding the emergency liquidity assistance to the Greek banks. If there is no agreement on Tuesday, if there is no sign that there can be an agreement soon, I'm afraid that the ECB will take some precautionary measures regarding the ELA, and this will have very severe outcome on the Greek economy.
Harold Howe, do you agree? No deal on Tuesday and we're headed for big trouble?
I think the likelihood of Greek exit is now bigger than 50%. I think what the lady from Greece just said, I find a bit besides the point. I think the Greek government misled the people about the real consequences of this referendum, and I think it put Greece on a fast track towards Brexit, and that will become clear very soon this week.
Karina Vassilopoulou?
I do not agree. It's not the Greek government that misled people. The Greek government was very willing from the very beginning to negotiate. It made concessions, some of them contrary to its electoral program. Just 1 or 2 days before the calling of the referendum, everything seemed to be fine. That the European Union said that the Greek proposals are a good basis to begin with. Then came the International Monetary Fund to destroy everything, and the rest of them joined them. So they sent an ultimatum. The austerity must go on the way it was before, and even worse, as if nothing had changed, as if the Greek people had not voted, had not rejected this policy with their vote last January and the change of the government. So I wonder who disorientates here.
All right, we can just to give an idea of where this conversation is going. Again, we're talking about public opinion being squarely divided, whether you're in Northern or Southern Europe. We could show you the front page of Bild. That's Germany's largest selling newspaper. In it, it says, Greeks celebrate their no. What now, chancellor? That's the front page of Germany's best-selling daily newspaper this Monday. What now, chancellor? Indeed, Bruno Bernard. When you heard Harold House say that, in his view, the chances of a Grexit are now higher than 50%.
Yeah, maybe it's Europe's time to start helping Greece towards that exit. You know, on this, I'm siding with Alain Juppé's position on maybe instead of trying to put more money into Greece and trying to negotiate another settlement or another deal that will just help this situation carry on but do not solve it. So maybe it's time for European leaders to come together and talk with Tsipras and see what can be done actually to help Greece out of this situation.
And we're hearing this Monday several European leaders and also the IMF saying they're willing to help when it comes to humanitarian aid. Is that a way of saying we're getting you ready in case of a Grexit?
I think it shows that the program failed. I mean, at one stage, we are speaking with people from schools, management and everything. I mean, we should evaluate what is going on in Greece. Let's do it like a project. When you are conducting a project, at one stage you evaluate. You've got few indicators showing clearly that it doesn't go in the right direction in Greece. So what shall we do? I mean, I am surprised to hear about public opinion. I mean, we are speaking about the public opinion in Germany, mostly. If you look at the rest of Europe, if you take 10 years of referendum, the signal sent was exactly the same. In France, for example, 10 years ago, in Netherlands, and all these tapes, nobody took care of them. We went for the Lisbon Treaty. So at one stage, and I agree with what you say, it's time for the European politician to sit together and to see where we want to go together. If we don't have any project at one stage, it has to stop. But it won't be the case with Greece. If, and I'm elected in the Southern European countries, Spain and Portugal, my feeling...
You represent the French abroad in those countries.
If we send a signal that Greece, we fail collectively, Greece and Europe, it's amazing that we have to wait nearly 6 years to see the state of the country today to react, to say, okay, maybe you should leave. It's not serious.
Arnaud Leroy, that brings us to the topic of François Hollande, the French president who's been criticized over the last couple of days. His voice, it feels as though it hasn't been heard enough on the European stage. He hasn't counted enough. Is he the person who can help talk everybody down?
I think so. I think he didn't make any big declaration in the press. That's a big difference. But he was playing behind closed doors. I mean, you won't solve this issue by making statements in the press or in the radio or in any other situation. It has to be looked at seriously. We are speaking about the crisis, the most important crisis we faced in Europe since the beginning of the common adventure. So if we don't take the scale of the task we've got in front of us, that's the end. But it's not only the end for Greece. It's my fear that it's a kind of domino aspects. And you see all the people applauding the no yesterday. They are mostly anti-European. And we should look at it. Look, for example, you look at Russia. saying, oh, it's nice for Greece. Yes, because they are bringing a bit of perturbation in the European game. All the movements anti-Europe, National Front in France, for example, applauding, we have to take care of this as well. Because we cannot say that all the public opinion are pro-Europeans, pro-European projects.
But they're not.
No.
As you know, I mean,
exactly.
France voted no in 2005, you know, and the referendum, the Netherlands voted. I mean, each time there's a referendum in Europe, it actually ends up in a no, in a massive no. So there's definitely a question to be asked there, you know, what has gone wrong with Europe? Because your commentator in Greece said that some people, that the no in Greece was a no to Europe, or it was a no to austerity. But these days, austerity and the European Union actually means the same thing.
Exactly.
So, you know, for people, when it sounds like that, how can you say, well, how can you say yes to that kind of program?
Harold Howe, isn't it a bit unfair when the final word, and we'll see it again on Tuesday, is not with the Eurocrats in Brussels, but with the leaders of the various nation states?
Well, they're as well democratically elected, so I don't see a problem there. But let me just correct one of the impressions. When one talks about austerity, one should not forget that the aid of the European Euro member countries not only went to banks, as was claimed in a previous comment, they also went to some extent, maybe not enough, but to some extent to the Greek budget. And we have to face the fact that we have here a big adjustment program that failed. And I think there's, at this stage, no longer any hope that Greece, even if given more financial aid, would do any better in the future. So I think there's a profound sense of failure of ownership of structural reform on the part of Greece. And whatever the Greek government promises now might also be perceived as irrelevant at this stage, because no one believes that a signature on a piece of paper means much at this point.
Yanis Koutsoumidis, your thoughts on that?
Excuse me?
Your thoughts on that? What's Greece's word worth at this point?
Well, I think the referendum brought the discussion to a whole wrong path. I think right now we have to downplay the significance of the referendum. Even Mr. Tsipras last night gave a speech that was conciliatory. He said that I consider this vote to be a vote for a new agreement, not for a vote for a rift or a rupture with the Eurozone. So I understand that this was very badly handled by the Greek government. But right now we have the leaders of opposition and the government in Greece saying very clearly they want a new agreement. And Prime Minister Tsipras will go tomorrow to Brussels to bring a new proposal that will put Greece on a new path. I think the Eurozone should give Greece one last chance to show that it can bring an agreement on the table and implement it. I think the whole Grexit discussion is wrong at this stage. It has to be dropped immediately, and we need to focus on what an agreement can be brought on the table and discussed and be put to the parliaments of the Eurozone countries and the Greek parliament and the German parliament, so Greece will stay in the Eurozone.
And do you buy the argument of Arnaud Leroy that we haven't heard much from the French president, but perhaps he can weigh more than we think in this discussion?
Well, the French government has been supporting the new Greek government since late January. Monsieur Sapin has been vocal many times in support of the Greek government, how Greeks have suffered from austerity. So now they feel, I sense that they feel they've been somehow betrayed by this brinkmanship that the Greek government brought in the last weeks or months of the negotiations. So I think Monsieur Hollande is playing much of his credibility regarding the support he gave to Greece in previous months. So he needs to see now a credible proposal by Mr. Tsipras tomorrow at the Euro Summit. So if Mr. Tsipras, and I believe he will bring a credible proposal, I think he will support him during the summit, and I hope they will have a positive
Yanis
outcome
Koutsoumidis,
of the
we're going to interrupt you. We're going to stay with us, though.